Welcome to another episode of the Virtual Rehab Bros podcast, where we brought on the topic of growing your online personal brand on, Instagram, but other social medias at the same time. But I bring up Instagram because we are going to talk about a specific topic today, which Kyle will lead us into. Kyle, what are we talking about today?
Are we doing metrics?
We're getting into metrics. We're getting into metrics.
Analytics, metrics, whatever you want to call it.
What are your numbers, bro?
What are your numbers? That's like, everyone at the gym. Well, what do you bench? Well, what do your analytics look like? And I think most people don't pay attention to that little thing at the bottom says view your insights. There is some value to it, and I didn't really care about mine at first because actually when I first started, the metrics wasn't even that big of a deal. They didn't give you much of anything outside of views and likes. And you're like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah, I don't even think they had the insights per post. They showed you you could track a 7-day, 30-day, 90-day, like that general time frame. But I think that's within the last 3 months. It was recent that
it's longer. Track. They've gone more. But
don't quote us on this.
No. What do you look at the most? I know for me. I know for myself, what I look at the most is, hey, first off, how does a post do? You can look at also like the followers and stuff like that. I go right to my post because I'm curious of the three things I look at is for me, watch time, how long they've watched and the percentage that they've watched. I look at overall views, but now they even go to initial plays and then replays. So that's also very important is how much are people watching it more than once. I think those are the only ones I really pay attention to is the watch time and then the plays versus, also reach too. Your followers that saw it and your non-followers. I'm always very curious about that because the ones that people think fall flat, like, oh, it wasn't a good post. But if mostly only your followers saw it and none of the non-followers saw it, it still could be a good post. You almost have to look at that. Like if I get a good post for me now is up towards 500 likes to 1,000 likes. A not great post is maybe 150 to 250. But if I look at those ones that didn't get as many likes just got shown to my followers. So if they're still being shown to even 10% of my followers, which realistically the number is, I think a lot of people get very confused by that. You might have a huge following, but your posts don't get shown to as many people as you think. And there really is no way to fix that. I want to say, like, obviously people engaging more, but sometimes it's just the hand you're dealt. Go ahead, Mitch. What do you look at with insights?
So I love that you brought up probably the next level strategy of viewing your engagement, because I bet most people were expecting to hear views and likes, and really those are the least two important metrics when you're tracking your metrics, right? So obviously everybody wants more views. That's how you can brag that you went viral. But on the other side of that, if you get a post that got, say, 100,000 views and you only got 100 likes, you just exposed yourself to 100,000 people that don't like your content. So it's a double-edged sword. So views is probably the least important. Again, as we harped on over and over again, if you make good content, you'll get more reach, you'll get more followers that way. And then likes are definitely the next least important, because it's how many times are you scrolling on Instagram, you see something you like and you don't even tap the button.
Dude, I know this for a fact because I have patients that'll come in and be like, oh, I love your content. I was like, I don't think I've ever seen like one thing, because some people really don't like, and I never realized that was the thing until people tell me. I was like, I'm on there, I'm like always liking stuff. Some people are just scroll reels and just they go and there's no engagement whatsoever. So
that's a classic one. Yeah. You're like, man, I don't know if social media is for me. I'm not getting any likes on this post. Right. And then patients come in like, hey, I really like that shoulder thing you showed. Well, why didn't you like it? And I think nowadays the people used to go heavy on the like button when it was kind of the only thing you could do for the majority of either liking, hearting, whatever the platform was when social media just came out. But nowadays we're so desensitized that we only like something if we really, really like it. But if we really, really like a piece of content, the most important metric you want to look at is your sharing or your share rate.
Forgot
Not
about
even
that.
saves. Saves used to be a bigger deal, especially when saves just came out. But that's when someone saves something, that means they're going to watch it later. So you're going to get more replays, which you talked about. But if you want to go viral or you want to grow your following, if you make share worthy content, people will go out of their way to share your piece of content with someone who probably doesn't follow you. And that's where you can get that trickle effect of spreading like wildfire.
That's where I know that I have a good post is I'll get shared by even just 10 of my closest friends and family, like in my area, share that. Well, those 10 stories that get shared now have way more views and way more people are seeing my content. I might get more followers off that post or more exposure than I do likes. Likes are such a weird metric because, again, the algorithm does dictate how much your stuff is getting pushed out, whether it's a good piece of content or not.
Mhm.
So it's hard to say, oh, it's based off of that. I go off again, shares, saves, comments are great too. People are engaging. That makes your algorithm,
Mhm.
more favorable. But no, those are really important metrics. I think likes are actually towards the tail end. Obviously, if you're normally getting 1,000 likes, you're getting 10 likes. Okay, something obviously is maybe a little off. And you and I both see that on some posts I know that are like sponsored or things like that. Might have a little bit of a
Mhm.
dip, but it's still not bad in terms of reach.
Yeah, absolutely. And another metric, I mean, likes are still important because it's what people
Yes.
see. Really, only you can see on the back end. I think it actually, no, it shows share likes,
It does show
shares,
shares now.
and
Does it?
saves on there. So, but when that's like when you're clicking on the reel, if you're just kind of scrolling the feed, those don't pop up on the side
Not the
unless like you're
shares.
in the
No.
unless you're in the reels thing. So likes is kind of what everybody sees, but you gotta divorce yourself from likes being a super big deal. If anything, you want to look at the total numbering of engagement, and the more of those engagement numbers that aren't coming from likes really dictates how good your post is. A good rule of thumb I like to have, because saves are still important, if your
Mhm.
likes and saves are close to a 1-to-1 ratio, that post is about to pop off. Even if it doesn't pop off same day, the odds that, a week or two from now, it'll start to, go viral or pick up steam. It's usually that 1-to-1 ratio on posts that you get one of those late burners. It's not 1,000 or 100% of the time, but at least your hit rate's going to be higher.
I agree. I'm going to pull up a little example real quick. I did, especially carousels, right? Carousels
Mm-hmm.
are phenomenal for the save ratio. So if you look at, I did one, it was on shoulder mobility. It had 872 likes, but over 1,000 saves and 257 shares. But the saves, like that's okay. There's 1,000 people saving onto it, thinking, "Hey, this is going to be something very valuable." I know you get really good ones too. So give me one of
Stop
yours.
swatting at me. Ooh. Yeah, I was gonna say I was trying to check metrics real quick as it pops up. Yeah, so my most recent post that went viral, I'll bring up the numbers. 292,000 views. Again, views are not that important. Uh, Almost 2,500 likes, but 3,200 saves. So I broke that threshold. So I went over that 1-to-1 ratio. So I shouldn't be surprised that that post went viral. And
Agreed.
the shares, your shares are always going to be the least amount, unless you're absolutely crushing it and you found a
Yeah,
formula. Usually it's probably more controversial stuff, so it depends on how much you want to dip your toes into that. I dipped my toes into that recently, and definitely shares went up, but
right.
the know it all gym bros came out lurking,
Came out heavy. Yeah.
And I
But
just don't
no,
have time
that's
to look at comments all day, so you know it'll improve the engagement rate, but I still live my life outside of social media.
I agree. So I think all we're really trying to tell people here is you got to be aware of these things. Again, not every single post always hits all these criteria or whatnot, but you're trying to make content that favors these kind of things: comments, saves, and shares. Again,
Yeah.
people are more likely if they save it or they share it, the odds they probably didn't even like it. So like I've heard before there's like a weighted system where Instagram does favor those things more than just likes. Because you'll see there's a lot of people get a ton of likes, but their engagement's super low or they're not getting pushed a lot in the algorithm. I think it's
Mhm.
because they're not getting those other metrics taken care of. Like if you see someone has 1,000 likes, but they have 0 comments, well, that's also a cause for concern. Probably that person's boosting all their stuff if they're not getting any sort of engagement on there. You can
Right.
usually read those accounts out pretty fast. But It also is super normal if you have 500 followers to only get, 50 likes on it. That's actually really good. If you look at mine, I have 60,000. If I get 600 likes, that's 10%. I don't even get that half the time now.
Yeah, I
No,
like
that's
that
not.
10.
That's 1%.
1%.
1% of
Yeah,
people like.
it's gonna, as you
Huge drops.
grow. Yeah, and that's where,
Mhm.
if you're at the point where we're at, you already have a formula that works. And I mean, we track our metrics, but I'm
We
not
don't live and
looking
die
at
by it.
this stuff all day, every day. Maybe once a week, once a month, I'll go through my post, ones that did well, ones that didn't do well. I kind of know what my average is, and then look at the engagement rate. And then I can tell, hey, was this a good piece of content? So if I look at one that only got like 10,000 views and I click on it, but my engagement rate was about 10%, meaning I got likes, comments, and shares, but I just didn't get the views. I still know that was a valuable piece of content. If anything, that's something I'm probably stuffing in the back pocket to repost or repurpose later, because
Right.
it's a numbers game. The more darts you throw at the dartboard, they're going to hit eventually. But if you can start to read your engagement rates and what's popping off, at least for you, then you can
Right.
kind of play the system and then keep feeding content like that.
Yeah, this is relative, right? Find your baseline and know you're going to have. I mean, dude, I have weeks that are terrible. You're like, oh, engagement's just not great, but content never
Mm-hmm.
changed. Okay, stay with that. If now you're seeing, hey, a month's gone by and now I'm actually getting less and less engagement, my view time is shrinking, all those things are just not going the right way. Okay, they maybe need to relook at it, but no, don't live and die by it, but definitely be aware. I think there's people don't even look at it. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
give you an honest representation of what the general content you're putting out there is.
Well, and the one thing you mentioned, I still have a couple week stretches where it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on right now? But when
Panic
we've been
button comes
doing
out.
this, when we've been doing this over and over again, the algorithm goes through ups and downs. They're always refining it. And you know what's the number one thing that's algorithm proof? We talked about it
Consistency.
during our first episode because it's the most important
Consistency.
thing. Consistency. So we didn't quit when the algorithm changed. We just kept staying the course. And then guess what? It'll come back up, especially if your content is proven to do well and go viral. So that's
Right.
where it's a numbers game. You just gotta keep throwing the darts no matter what.
Yeah, don't pull the plug on and hit the eject button right away. Because again, I looked at last week. I had a post. It was like 200 likes, 200 likes, 1,000 likes. Like all of a sudden, you hit that huge jump, and then it's back down again. Or you get one that goes viral, and the rest of them aren't great. But if you look at overall, track your follower count, your engagement
Mm-hmm.
count. I mean, you can look at how many DMs are you getting, how many questions are you getting, are you being reached out to by companies and brands. Those are all metrics that you track versus everyone just focuses on just the likes. How do I get more and more likes? If you
Likes and
only
views.
worry about that, that's just it's not a great metric to track. Again, it's how is your
Mm-mm.
overall page doing? Are you getting more clients? Like, what is your goal of social media? If your goal is just get likes, then go do fun little trends and TikTok dances to get likes. If your goal is to
Mm-hmm.
grow a brand, likes are important to an extent, but all these other things need to be balanced at the same time.
Absolutely. And one other piece of advice before you post something, ask yourself, would someone share this with someone else? That little thing or that little question before you hit post gives you the idea if it's going to go viral. If it's a random video of you doing a treatment when it's not your clinic page, uh, that's going to do terrible. Don't be surprised it does terrible because
Yep.
why are you doing it? What's the context? Again, if it's share worthy, it's going to go viral, or at least its viral
Yeah.
rate is going to be higher. And you're going to get the engagements you're looking for.
Yeah, think about what you share. I don't share anything. It's like a 2 minute video of someone treating an ankle sprain. I share the 10-second video, but it's like funny, super knowledgeable. I think others want to see this, so I share it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like you said, a treatment video is great if you're a clinician, you're building your brick and mortar, and that goes on that page. You'll see I'm going to collab with those posts. That's more for just people to see that I'm a clinician. But if I'm just
Mm-hmm.
posting that content over and over, and a minute of me treating a patient, thinking I'm somehow going to go viral after that, I don't understand. There's a disconnect there of where people you have to
Yeah,
adapt your content for that.
unless you want to be a crack Chiro, because that's a easy place to grow a large following. It's just
Mhm.
not the kind of avatar I'm looking for, and I'm guessing that's the same for you.
Yeah, but what do you get out of that? That's why I tell people, what do you get? Okay, so you have
Mm-hmm.
100,000 followers because you adjust people. You can't offer that virtually. You can't do anything. You can't give away programs of adjusting. You can't do anything like that. And most companies aren't going to endorse you for stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
and even if the only place you really get AdSense nowadays is YouTube, and that number keeps going down, 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 down,
because
down.
the
So if you're
more
going
and more
to take
people
the time to make content, you should make content that's going to feed into your future online business. If you are just doing treatments, you can't do those treatments virtually. Well, unless you're doing rehab specific. That's not treating, that's coaching. That's a whole different discussion,
coaching
anyways.
another
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, another time and place. We'll get there. We'll get there. Um, but yeah, you gotta keep that separated. That's why we already talked about this too. Your content has to be specific to the avatar of the person you're trying to talk to. So also when you're asking yourself, is this share worthy? Is this someone in my niche who would share with someone else who's also in that niche? Because that's how it spreads and starts to grow like
Yep.
wildfire.
Yep. So
It's
yeah,
not rocket
back to
science.
insights. No, it's not. Go back to your insights. If you're getting 0 shares, 0 comments, 0 saves, something's up. Obviously, if you're a new page that has 20 followers, that's expected. If you've been doing this for a year now and you're like, why am I not getting that? You need to look back at your content and
Mm-hmm.
take those metrics and those analytics and do something about it. So you can take all the stuff we've said, but at the end of the day, use your analytics to help guide you in the right direction.
Absolutely. So I'll recap a couple thoughts. Anything else you want to go
Mhm.
over when it comes to engagement and what
I think we
numbers
hit
and metrics
everything.
we want to track?
You know what? The other thing I also like to say too is the watch time. We didn't really touch on that,
Oh,
but
yes. Yep.
if you have a 2 minute reel, or what's the max now? Minute 30, whatever it is. Let's just call it a
Mm-hmm.
minute. And you get someone only watch 3 seconds of that. Okay, they've watched 3 seconds out of 60 seconds. That's not great metrics. Instagram doesn't see that as something valuable. The
It's a
reason I make
terrible
my
hook.
reels, yeah,
It's a
it's
terrible hook,
not
by the
great. They're
way.
already
Going
gone.
going back to last
Going
episode.
back, and this is something we talked about. But again, I use that metric to say, hey, if I have an 8 second video and people are watching 6 seconds on average of 8, great. Guess what? That also helps the algorithm. People are engaging in my content. People are likely to share it because they've seen what it is. No one's going to share a post that's a minute long. They've only watched 3 seconds ago. I'm going to share this. They have no idea what the rest of that looks like. So use that. Are you seeing a huge drop off? Okay, that's an important metric to know your content maybe isn't ideal for your audience. Mitch does a great job with longer content in the
Mm-hmm.
terms of what 20, 30, 40 seconds, but his audience enjoys that. That's the people he's
Yes.
found.
Well, that's the data base that I've built up. I mean, people know me for that at this point. But let's just, because we post two different types of content, let's just talk about our average watch time. So for me, because our numbers are going to be totally different, so it's important
Yeah.
to know what type of content. So if you're doing longer short form where you're in that 20 to 60-second mark, let's just say my average duration is 45 seconds. My average watch time is right around that 12 to 15 seconds. For me, that's a really, really good watch time because I'm making longer
Right.
form content. So if I'm getting close to like a 1/3 or a 33%, that's actually really good because it's a numbers game. Some people are just going to continuously swipe, but the people that are staying the whole time. So that's where the more data you have, the more posts you have, you can kind of find your average, and then you have a point that you want to keep improving. So, like when I started, my average watch time was like an 8 or a 9. So, my goal has been to get that longer and longer. And that's through hook development and then making sure I'm listening to my audience and what they want to watch. Because it's not what you want to post, it's what they need to watch. Again, this is a mindset shift. Don't just post random stuff. Um, but what is like a good watch time for you
So
or
a good
ratio?
one, uh, usually 70% to 80% because my reels are no longer than 8 to 9 seconds. On average,
Mm-hmm.
they're 4, 5 to 6 seconds of average watch time. So if you got 4 out of 8, 50% is still phenomenal. They've also now seen the first cut. So the first thing to cut, and they've probably gotten most of the context. Usually I cut back and it's maybe just one more little tidbit, but they've seen what the movement is. One of the most important things I think about the movement you should know, and then they move
Mm-hmm.
on. But now Instagram sees that most of your people watch about 65 to 70% of your video versus 4 seconds out of 40 is 10%. So again, that's a metric you can look at, and that's how you can kind of tweak your content, or just be honest, knowing, hey, I am going to have longer content. I want to find a way to make that thing longer. Versus myself, I know my content doesn't last if it's 30 seconds long. I'm cutting it down, just trying to get them to, if you watch 4 seconds of my content, that's 4 seconds out of your day and you liked it. That's all I need.
Yep. Or shared it. Wink, wink.
Or shared it.
Yeah. So
go ahead and recap.
That's a good thing to end on when it comes to average watch time. It depends on the type of content you're making. If you're doing a 6-second video and you have a 1 second, watch time,
yes,
that's shitty content. Okay. It's hard not to get a higher watch time when your videos are shorter, at least the average. So if you're making content like me, where it's more talking directly to the camera, know that those numbers are going to go down, but you have to find your baseline. And then once you find your baseline, you're just going to continue trying to improve that with better hooks, better content overall, better editing transitions, which we talked about last episode. So if I'm going to recap this, the most important metrics. So if we're talking engagement, I'm going to rank these. So the engagement you need to, this goes in order of importance. First thing is how many people shared it. That holds the most weight, especially in the algorithm. And then it goes saves. Probably comments and saves are in a very similar boat. You're not going to get nearly as many comments as you do saves, but it's an important metric. And then your likes is right near the bottom, and then how many views you get is at the very bottom.
Yes.
Because if you get 10 views, or if you get 1,000 views, but you get 50 likes, especially if you're just starting out, that's a really good ratio.
That is really good. I think people don't realize too, now Reels, the reach has gone down, where our numbers look inflated now because they started counting in replays. But if you took that away, my views would maybe be sometimes 5, 6, 7,000. It's not as much as people think. It used to be, Reels used to be the only way to get tons and tons, and views were insane. They've gone back some, but if you look at the percent of people who are engaging versus your views, that's what you want to look at.
Yep. And then the last thing I want to mention is when you've been doing this consistently, you're not even paying attention to your views and likes anymore. It's not even a metric. I mean, obviously, when I look at my engagement, it's on there, so it's hard not to look at. But I'm just looking at it, and then I'm looking, do people share this? Do people save this? That's what I'm looking at.
Yes, because the likes are, it's whatever at this point. As long as, like we said, if you are normally a 200 like person, all of a sudden you're getting 10 and 20, okay, red flag, right? There's a huge drop off, but mine can fluctuate from 150 to 2,000-3,000. It's just there's this constant up and down, but we have an idea of where our normal is now after doing this for so long, and that's what you're just kind of paying attention to. So
absolutely. And any final points for this episode?
No, I think we nailed it. We tried to stay on topic as much as we could, but I think it was valuable.
All right, and then we'll tease next Monday, new episode every Monday, if you haven't caught on by now. We're going to dive into how to never run out of content, because that's a common question we get. How do you come up with content ideas? So I will bookmark this. Stay tuned for next Monday, and just keep posting. Just keep posting.
Be consistent.
Amen.